All right. So this is Lucha Lookback, episode 6. I forget what the title of the show was on Tubi. Whew, Marcus, these are some rough shows to get through. We know the trio tournament is coming, and it's what's keeping us alive. But this show opens up with Cueto and Big Rick having a conversation in the office about their dastardly deeds. This will come back to bite Cueto in the butt later on in the show. But we open up with a opening round match with Evilise and Matt Cross, a.k.a. Son of Havoc, doing his weird voice promo, talking about how he's the real man of Lucha Underground. He's not going to lose to, I forget what the minis or women ever again. And then out comes Mascarita Sagrada. No, I'm sorry. Out comes Pimpinela Escalarada. I think that's as close as I'm going to get. Who's a Exotico, which is always been ironic to me because like Mexico's a very Catholic, anti-gay country, and yet Exoticos in wrestling have always been very, very popular with them. It's a conundrum. But he comes out. They have a decent little match. Eventually, though, Pimpinela gets some help from Mascarita. Mascarita interferes, and Pimpinela gets the win over Son of Havoc. Good guys celebrate. Bad guys kind of get into a little confrontation. Marcus, is this a match that did anything for you at all? Think we lost Marcus for a moment. It didn't do anything for me. That's for damn sure.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, muted myself. But yeah, it didn't really do anything for me. Look, I think Scarlata and
Son of Havoc or the Mascarita.
Mascarita, yeah, Scarlata and Mascarita. I think they work. I think that's a very unique tag team to say the least, but in doses. And also the Son of Havoc, he's got a certain road ahead of him, and it was the right match to have kick off the show because you don't want to save that for the main event.
No, and the main event for this was actually pretty solid. We get Johnny Mundo ambushing Dario Cueto in the bathroom. That's no bueno. You don't do that. There's going to be more from those two. Next up, we get Famous B versus Mil Muertes. It's a glorified squash. Mil gets the quick win. All I'll say about this, Marcus, is it's kind of ironic that Famous B is just kind of getting jobbed right now when in like a season or two he's going to be a pretty big factor in the show.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny to see like where we start and where we're going, but
yeah.
We then get a promo with Drago hyping up who Drago is. That should have been case positive that he was going to lose. They only ever run adverts for people who are about to take the L. He's taking on King Cuerno. This is a fun little match. I liked it. I like the red and black of Cuerno and the blue and black of Drago. I'm always a fan of that polar opposite color kind of combinations, like with Tommy and Jason Power Rangers. I dug that. That was cool. So this was very cool. I liked it. It very much felt like a Power Rangers match, but with a lot more athleticism. We get Cuerno with the win, but I think her name was like, what was it, Jade or something like that? She comes out to scout the match. She's part of is it the Snake Tribe or the Dragon Tribe? We don't find out about that for a while, though.
Yeah, we don't.
Because they eventually bring in Rey Mysterio's nephew, real-life nephew, or cousin. I think it's his cousin, Ray Horace, and he's part of like the Snake Tribe or something like that. So she's there scouting. Cuerno gets the win, but then we get a promo, Marcus. That took far too long, and I cared so little about. Mundo basically wants his 100K back. Ricochet shows up, pointing at his mouth and then moving his hand because he doesn't talk. Conan's like, hey, and then Cueto's like, hey, and then things happen. I'm just like, I hate this. This is awful. Marcus, tell me that you at least enjoyed the Johnny Mundo segments more than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate it because, seeing him be more aggressive, it helps him, a certain way because he can, that's why I think he kind of thrived more Lucha Underground because he got to kind of combine, his acting with his athleticism and then obviously, with so many different facets of his wrestling character. Um, and then obviously, he had something that Cueto very much wanted back. And then, we coming off this is the 6th episode. We all know him and this is our first season about going back and forth between him and Puma because they kicked off the first show with the hell of a main event. And really trying to go back and forth to see who's going to be the number one guy, and having somebody like Big Rick coming in the middle. Like, I don't care about being number one. I just want to get paid. And I don't care who I got to screw over, who I got to attack, or who I got to, kidnap or whatever got to do it. So, it was entertaining from that perspective. And anytime we get to have Conan come out and say anything kind of disarming to anybody, it works.
Yeah, Conan's always a decent promo. Doesn't matter what he's given. So I appreciated that. The main event, however, is where the show really shines. I think it might be the best match so far in the show through the first 6 weeks. I can't really say that too much of the show has impressed me up until this point. Granted, we've watched the show before. We're not first-time viewers, but it doesn't get good until the Trios tournament starts. Like, that's when things really start popping. So we had Phoenix and Sexy Star taking on Chavo Guerrero Jr. and Pentagon Jr. I like this match. I really liked what they were trying to do with Pentagon and Phoenix, with Sexy Star and Chavo. It wasn't the greatest thing you'll ever see, but up until now, I thought it was the best all-around match that they could do. And considering this show was kind of heavy in, you had a comedy match to open up, then a squash match, and then you had a match with King Cuerno and Drago. That was really good. But it's already been bungled with the way they introduced Cuerno, basically losing in his debut after being touted as this violent predator. And it's like, all right, you took the teeth from him, so like I don't know what more you can do with him now. Like, you've already fudged it. And then you have this match, and this was good. I liked it. Marcus, thoughts on the main event?
No, like you, I dug it. Obviously you had a very different variations of styles. It was cool to hear that Pentagon music before it really, certainly interesting to hear it before it really picked up the swag that it eventually did. And like you said, you got the two long-term heroes of Lucha Underground, well, obviously one more than the other. And Phoenix and Sexy Star versus somebody like Chavo, who has quickly established himself as somebody who is very grimy, and somebody like Penta, who was trying to establish himself as grimy. So, yeah, I think it was a good pairing. It was a good showing, because somebody like Sexy Star and Phoenix, are beloved, of course, as babyface when they fighting on the back foot, but specifically Sexy Star, because obviously she was the intergender part of it.
So that'll take us to next week, episode 7. We have a $100,000 ladder match waiting for us next week. Unfortunately, we don't get any of the action. Wish we did. But we'll be back next week for another edition of the Lucha Lookback. Although I am thinking that after week 10, we take a week break and we do one of the other to-be-free wrestling things that they have there.
Okay.
Because I saw like a bloodiest wrestling matches. That could be interesting. We could have some fun with that.
Okay.
So we'll consider doing that. We can also have a discussion about it. I certainly there are options. But so that'll be that. And then when we come back, we might do a review of sorts of the first 10 weeks. Yeah. Kind of see how we feel. So that'll be the next 2 episodes after, well, not the next 2. We got 7, 8, 9, 10. So sometime in September, that's when we're going to do this. But for Marcus Green, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Check Marcus out on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That is me.
That is him. You can also find him on his other podcast at The True Penny Show on Twitter at TruePennyShow. You can also find me on Twitter, Chad Nerdcorp, CHAD, and on Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut. Be sure to check out the website, realnerdcorp.com, REALNERDCORP. We're also on Twitter at NERDCORP. That's Nerdcorp on Twitter. Follow us, like us, subscribe to us, do all that fun stuff. We're also on twitch.tv/Wrestling Underground every Monday, 10-ish. We record our shows, and we post them to YouTube throughout the night, or throughout the week, I should say. Making an Impact goes up on Mondays. Wrestling Underground goes up on Tuesdays, and then Fridays is Lucha Lookback. So be sure to keep an eye out for those. And yes, this week we will have a woman crush of the week. I'm thinking Hirsch, if we haven't used her before in the last year. Otherwise, I'll have to go back to the drawing board. And I don't like going back to the drawing board. So with that being said, from Marcus Green, I'm Chip Porto. We're done. We're out. Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.